Yo, yo, yo. How y'all doing today? This is Antoine Smalls of Financial Blueprint. Glad to be back with y'all today as we get ready for a new series called Wealth, Money, and Riches. So we're starting a new series this week. It's a 10-part series. So every episode will be on Tuesdays, approximately 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We will rock out and provide so much information and guidance when it comes to your financial journey, wealth, money, and riches over the next 10 weeks. So we're going through a 10-part week series. The goal in the end is to provide you some good information, some accountability, and ultimately some great tools to help you on your financial journey moving forward. Why did I start this new series? Right? Because over the last few weeks, we've seen job reports, we've seen payroll reports come, and we've seen unemployment tip up 4.3% currently in the United States. And all I'm hearing is we have so many issues when it comes to the job market, when it comes to what this new technology and AI is doing, when it comes to taking people's jobs. We have people out here struggling to pay their bills, day-to-day bills. So what better way to create a series basically talking about all things money and all things finances when it comes to just the basic perspective of the budget, of investing from a very beginner's level and intermediate level, rather not get into the advanced side of things as of right now, right? So this is why I'm doing it. I am here to impact you in a positive way, to give you the tools, the things that you can do ultimately in your current situation, to give you practical examples of how you can help you in your financial situation, as well as how you need to plan moving forward over the next 15 months. Because as I stated before in a previous video, we got 15 months through the end of this year and through the end of 2026. You have 15 months to get it together. Because what's about to happen in about a year or two, when it comes to all of this AI taking people's jobs, when it comes to you being a customer service agent, a coder, someone that answers phones for different positions, if you someone that just gives a basic entry level job, a lot of these jobs, McDonald's, Burger King, as you see kiosks everywhere, even in grocery stores, we see them taking cash registers away. Ultimately, in the end, all of these entry level jobs are going away. Right? If it's artificial intelligence and they can take your job, it's going to take your job. So how do we need to move? What do we need to do moving forward? Is the question. And I got answers for you. But today we're gonna go accountability. Today is about affordability and how Americans are broke. And I'm here to argue that it ain't anybody's fault but you. If you currently are in a situation right now that you're struggling with your finances, that you're having a hard time affording things, I would argue that you have a spending problem, not an affordability issue. That you make enough money from an income perspective, but we don't have discipline when it comes to spending. And we're going to give a few examples of that today as we take a look at how Americans are struggling with their finances, as well as we got three practical examples where we're going to look at people that got different salaries, from 60,000 all the way up through $900,000, and ultimately how they go about spending their money from a day-to-day perspective. All right. So first, let's go into Americans are struggling with their finances, and let's take a look at where we currently are right now in the United States. The average American makes $60,000 a year. The average American makes $60,000 to $65,000 a year. Is that enough money for the current inflation and the current economy that we live in currently right now? Leave me a comment. Is $60,000 enough money? That's the question. Because I would argue it is. Is it enough money to have a family of 4 or 5? Probably not. But to live a comfortable life, to be stable in your current situation, is $60,000 enough money? Before we can answer that question, let's take a look at this new video and let's dive into ultimately in the end what the Americans are currently doing and how is that impacting you guys on a daily basis.
For many Americans, work can feel like a hamster wheel. No matter how hard they run, it never feels like enough. Americans, on average, say they would need $520,000 a year to feel rich. And the more people earn, the more they say they need to feel comfortable. Americans making under $50,000 felt they needed $157,000 a year to feel comfortable. Those making $100,000 or more said they would need $246,000.
When I was in middle school, a song came out called Mo Money, Mo Problems. And I think that that's true. Your problems scale. You still are dealing with a finite number every month. Your worries, your anxiety, your budget scales to that. You still are dealing with a ceiling.
About 14% of all U.S. households make $200,000 or more every year. But many of them, dubbed Henrys or high earners, not rich yet, still don't feel rich. 62% of people with salaries over $300,000 a year struggle with credit card debt.
Earning doesn't actually make you feel rich. Spending it does. If most people spent 99% of their paycheck, they'd feel quite rich. And it's the paradox here. When we're in accumulation mode, it's very difficult to feel rich.
It can be pretty easy for someone to feel like I'm making really good money, but I don't have a lot of discretionary income.
Earning more and feeling like you're still on a hamster wheel is what a lot of Henrys experience. And that's because they're not living within their means. They may have been living above their means when they weren't nearly making as much money. And now they're just continuing to add more and more and more.
I earn $300,000 and I live in New York City. I definitely don't feel rich. I feel very lucky. I feel privileged, but I do not feel rich. I could not stop working right now. I have more money anxiety almost now than I ever did in my 20s. I am on a hamster wheel and there's no question about it.
Henrys often don't feel rich compared to others. Many Henrys are cash rich and asset poor. So they're typically people under 40. They don't have childcare hours available. They're first-time home buyers in the housing market. They're paying off student loans early, hopefully. And their income usually hasn't hit a career peak. So they're very much in that not rich yet bucket, but they very well could be in the future.
Oh, I 100% feel like a Henry.
Marian Contreras was a professional composer, band leader, and pianist who started her virtual assistant business in 2016.
That year, I started to grow slowly, and I was suddenly earning more money than I had ever earned in my life. And I think the number was something like $35,000 by the end of the year. And I went, wow, this is really great. I can grow this.
She then expanded into a digital marketing consulting agency during the pandemic.
For the calendar year of 2025, we're just on track to make 1.4 million. We're hoping to get to 1.5 or possibly even 1.6. I'm anticipating my owner's draw to be anywhere between 300,000 and 400,000. Had a pretty successful career as a musician through most of my 20s. The thing they don't tell you about having a career as a musician in music school is that you can be playing Carnegie Hall, which I was, and I was making $15,000 a year. And I didn't realize how much freedom money affords you. Now that I see the kind of freedom that somebody who earns what I do or even more has, that's my goal. That is absolutely what gets me out of bed in the morning.
A lot of the high earners, not rich yet, they're first generation wealth. So they still take their wealth into perspective against their family members or others in their community, and they realize how well they're doing. So they don't take it for granted. But I think what makes them feel not rich is we were told once you make six figures, all of your problems will go away. You'll just have so much excess. And I think we know that narrative is not true anymore.
I would have thought back then that the amount of money that I have in the bank right now, I would be rich. I would have just thought, oh yeah, she's made it, and I don't feel that way. I know that I am on a hamster wheel with my business. I actually really love the hamster wheel. I love what I do, but I also realize that I can't stop.
So let's talk about the hamster wheel for a second. What does that mean? What does a hamster wheel mean? Anybody know? If you know what a hamster wheel means, put it in the chat. So real quick, hamster wheel, if you look at a hamster and it's riding on a wheel, right? And it's just going to continuously just go. And it's a never ending process, right? That hamster continues to just work and work and work and run and run and run. And the lifestyle that we have now based on the current economy is, when are you going to be able to retire? That's a real question. Are you going to be able to retire? Because right now we're living in a time where retirees got to get back in the workforce and get a job. because they don't have enough money to sustain the rate of inflation. They didn't make enough money long term. Their pensions is not enough. Their possible stock market investments is not enough. It's not making any money. And ultimately, in the end, their savings and their investments are running dry. So that now they got to go back to work. So you being someone that's not retired, if you're not retired right now, are you going to be in a hamster wheel to where you have to work for the rest of your life? And on this channel, what we're trying to do right now is trying to teach, pillars of financial success to where you don't have to do that. My goal is to retire at 45. I'm not trying to be working for anyone by the time I'm 45 years old. I got 10 years. So for the next 10 years, I got to do everything I possibly do to put myself and my family in position to where I don't have to work. It's possible to do it, but we have to understand how to do it and ultimately the steps that we got to take. Right now, we have high earners with Henrys, which is high earners that are not rich yet. People that make over, let's say, 150,000. Depending on where you live, it has a lot to do with it. So if you're in New York City or California, 150,000 is not a lot of money, right? But if you live in Alabama, Mississippi, places like that, 150,000 is pretty good, right? So based on where you live, the location where you live, the affordability and the standard of living in that location then matters to this conversation, right? So let's just say on average, the United States American makes 65,000, right? If you make double that, then you're in a really good situation depending on where you live. But being that you make $100,000, $150,000, $200,000, you get into the situation where you want more. So you make more money, but then you want more, which means that you got to spend more. So ultimately, in the end, it doesn't matter if you make 50, it doesn't matter if you make 100, it doesn't matter if you make 150. If you're spending the money, then you're still poor. Well, poor is probably not the right word. You're still living paycheck to paycheck. You're not secure. Right, only 30% of Americans have an emergency savings account of more than $5,000. So that tells me that 70%, the majority of Americans don't have enough money. If they lost their job right now, they don't have enough money to sustain themselves for more than 3 months. And for some people, that's a lot less than 3 months. Right. And in my situation in this household, I make sure that at all times we got enough money to pay for our expenses for a year. Which we do, right? If I lost my job, which I'm not, but if I lost my job, right, and I were not to be able to make any money, I still got enough money in investments or saved to where I can sustain my lifestyle for about a year. It's important that we understand all of these little details because then that impacts your decision making and how you live your life, right? You make a lot of money or you make more money, you spend more money, you're still struggling, right? I'm trying to get you out of the thought process of spending but into the thought process of investing, right? So in this situation, this young lady makes a lot of money, but she's still feeling poor based on the standpoint that she's spending a lot of money and she lives in New York City, which is an issue first and foremost. But we're about to go into some examples of individuals that make less than what she makes, but we're starting off at the basic salary of $60,000. This young lady makes $60,000, and she's going to go into her lifestyle and break down her budget and her finances, and we're going to take that into consideration and have a conversation. This is probably the best example I can give because again, the majority of Americans only make $60,000 to $65,000 a year. If you're a little bit above that, you can definitely relate. If you're a little bit below that and you're trying to get to that level, take a look at what she has to say, and let's have a conversation about that in a second.
That I had a hard day at teaching, I would immediately go from my job to a store. And the way I was coping with hard days was by spending money. But it kind of took a total restart and being tired of the cycle I was in order to do something about it. My name is Maddie Baker. I'm 27 years old. And this school year, I'm expecting to make $63,000 from teaching first grade in Virginia and doing content creation on social media. I was 22 years old when I first started teaching. This upcoming school year will be my third year in first grade. It has never been about how much I was going to make. It's about the difference I was going to create. When I told her that I wanted to be a teacher, she said, "Don't do it. They do not make enough money." And I think it was just because of the way that she struggled for all of those years. But I'm the type of person that if my mom told me not to do it, naturally, I'm going to do it. I've struggled for a long time of being an impulsive spender. If I saw something that I wanted, I just went to the store right away and bought it. I got myself into really horrible cycles of pretty much using my entire paycheck that month and then also charging things on my credit card. So I would go through coffee drive-thrus every single day. I was buying school lunch every day. I spent a lot of money on my students for.
So we can all look at her situation and relate to her, right? So she makes her first year, she made $50,000. And let me just say, teachers, gotta love teachers, man. You guys have an amazing job. I couldn't deal with kids all day, depending on what age, but definitely the teachers, man, love teachers. Definitely appreciate all of the work that teachers do, right? So her first year, she made $50,000 being a teacher, which I think teachers are just grossly underpaid, of course. Total 63,000 because she does extra work when it comes to her social media account, which I think is great. And she talked about spending and how she would basically use up her whole paycheck. And I think that we all can relate to that when we have been in our situation in our lives where we get paid. And literally before 24 to 48 hours after we get paid, our check is gone. And some of us currently in this moment that I'm talking about this still are in that situation, right? Where you get paid on Friday, you got paid this past Friday, it's now Tuesday, your paycheck is gone, and now you got to wait 2 weeks for the next paycheck. Right? And there's a lot of factors and reasons why that is, but to highlight the fact that you always want to pay yourself first before you then spend all of your check. And we'll get more into that and what that strategy looks like when it comes to the pay yourself first strategy. But you have to get out of the thought process, out of the, situation where you get paid $1,950 is gone within 24 hours, 48 hours. And you only got $50 to your name for the next 2 weeks until your next paycheck. The majority of Americans live that lifestyle. And that is unfortunate, but we have to understand how to strategize to where we can do different things, to deter that from happening and being our lifestyle.
For Valentine's Day and for winter holidays, and I buy them a gift at the end of the year. And all of that stuff adds up, especially when you don't have a lot of money to begin with. I remember just waking up every single day and the stress of finances was just really getting me down. Close to the beginning of my third year teaching, I started thinking about where my money is going and figuring out exactly what I need to do with it. It's a huge misconception to people that teachers get paid over the summer. So I am a 10-month employee, but I'm paid over 12 months. I'm paid once a month. You have to be more specific about how you're spending your money, and you may end up at the end of the month with no money. My husband and I rent an apartment, and so I pay half of our rent. My husband and I do not share finances, which is a little bit non-traditional, but it works really well for us. I also have a car payment each month, as well as groceries, and then the occasional going out to eat with friends. I live 45 minutes away from my school, so that commute requires a lot of gas.
All right, so let's go back and look at her budget. And this is one of the most important things that in these videos is we can actually take a look at someone's budget and break it down. So first and foremost, if you don't have a budget and you're trying to be, better with your finances, then you're starting off in the wrong. You got to have a budget. Budget is just a screenshot, and as you can see right here, it's a screenshot of all of the money that's coming in and going out. That's really it. Right? You have, fixed expenses when it comes to like your mortgage, your rent, things that don't change. The number is going to stay the same on a monthly basis. And then you have variable expenses, things that change every month, your gas, obviously, groceries, and different things that ultimately like you're spending when you go out to eat, things like that, that's going to change on a monthly basis. But more importantly than anything else, for the most part, what you got to pay for, what bills you got to pay, and how much money you then pay towards it, right? If you need help with a budget, right, my recommendation for you is to go to your bank statement and take a look at the last 3 months and see what you spend your money on. Right, look at everything. Right, you can export it from your bank account. You can also do the same thing if you use a credit card. But ultimately, in the end, you should know what you spend. And, we have an Excel breakdown spreadsheet, everything that's being spent, per item, account, etc. How much the day it comes out, if it's automatically paid or not. You need to know everything, auto pay or if it's not auto pay. Right. But let's break down her budget. Right. So Maddie spends approximately $4,695 a month. And if you take a look at it, let's start with the right. Let's start with the blue over here at the housing utilities, right? So that's probably, and she says she goes half with her husband. And they don't have, a joint account, and I'll get to that afterwards. But if you look at the housing utilities, that means that she spends $875 on, her rent or mortgage, depending on if they own a house. And I think they don't. I think they rent. Look at this camera, $790. It says down here that she paid for it with her TikTok savings. Discretionary, $614. That is a friend's wedding, clothes, etc. Extra spending that she did in the month of May of this year. Transportation costs, which is her car note, and her insurance, Ubers and things like that. Food, health insurance. She actually budgets for her teaching supplies, which I think is awesome. Now, do I think that the schools need to pay for this? Absolutely. But we know the best teachers, they put out extra money for their classrooms, and that's also, a blessing for them for sure. Her subscriptions and memberships, $78. Phone bill is actually really good at $55. All right, and then you have, last but not least, her savings and investments, $883. So I'm gonna do a quick math real quick. Let's say she says she makes $63,000 a year. 63,000, divide that by 12 months. So she's bringing in approximately, and this is before tax, $5,200 a month. So if we take the 52, and that's gross, that's not net. It's probably going to be a lot less. It's going to be a little bit less than 52 if you take it in net. But let's just take in $5,000. Let's just say $5,000. If she's bringing in $5,000 a month, then that means that her spending is $4,695. Say $4,700. That will leave her with $700. That will leave her with $300. That is not a great budget. Now, yes, she has a husband, so her husband is doing half on everything. But there's not a lot of money left over when it comes to that budget. The thing that I will say in a positive way is that she is investing saving and investing $883 a month. Now, if you take her salary and you put $5,000, that's not 20%, but that's about 18%, 17 or 18% of her income, which I think is great. I try to save and invest 20 to 25% of my income every time I get paid every month, and a little bit more if we can, right? So the minimum for me is 20%. And I would encourage you guys to always be of the mindset to invest at minimum 10% of your income. And for me, that's gross income. That's not net income. That's not after taxes. That is gross income. So if you are starting off, take 10% of your pay, look at your gross, 10% of that. That's the amount that you should be investing every time you get paid. If you want to do it on a monthly basis, do it on a monthly basis. Whatever works for you. Some people wait for a quarterly. Some people get bonuses in the quarters and things like that. I know a guy that does quarterly investments. But ultimately, in the end, you should be investing at minimum 10% of your income. When you can, start to raise that number to 20 to 15%, 20%, 25%. I mean, if you're a younger person that don't have a lot of responsibilities, I would say you should be up in the 40, 45% savings, because again, if you're in your 20s and you don't have any kids, any responsibilities, you single, you by yourself, there's no reason why you shouldn't be saving and investing a lot of money, right? When you get like me, you got a family, you got children, you got a whole lot of
each month, as well as
then it makes it a lot harder, right? So all in all, the budget looks pretty good. I would say, some of this discretionary spending probably needs to come down a little bit. It would be nice if she didn't have to buy school supplies out of her own paycheck, but sometimes that happens. And then she did spend a little bit extra right here with this camera. So assuming that this is probably not a fixed expense and this is probably a separate, thing that she did in the month of May for the camera, her discretionary spending is probably, up and down every month, then the budget gets a little bit better. So this is her quick budget. And this is what you need to be looking at when it comes to your budget and seeing how much money you have left over when you get paid, as well as every month, on a monthly basis.
Groceries, and then the occasional going out to eat with friends. I live 45 minutes away from my school, so that commute requires a lot of gas. In the month of May, I spent $100 on end of the year gifts and crafts for my students. I think most teachers experience needing to buy a lot of things with your own money. Typically, anything extra that you want is something that you'll pay for. I work in a Title I school in a low-income community. Families doing everything they can to be able to make ends meet and to provide for their children and things that I need in order for my classroom to function, like my organizational supplies. That is never something that I would ever feel comfortable asking a family to purchase. So last summer, I remember spending around $1,000 on getting my classroom more organized and, buying labels and buying a printer so that I can do things in color, buying laminating sheets, things like that. But it definitely is so expensive to make a classroom a place that feels like a second home, which is what I want it to be, because I want it to be a place that my students and I love to be in. So I have found some ways to kind of help myself spend less. I saw some really good lattes being made on TikTok, and I realized I could do that at home too. I've gotten really good over the last year at doing my own nails. It stopped me from going to the nail salon. A lot of planning on the back end, but making smarter choices with just some things that I can do in my daily life.
I mean, I think that's a great point. She stated that she is finding ways to lower her expenses and, learning how to do things on her own. I think that's awesome. I mean, I know that when, me and my wife go and do pedicures, it can get pretty pricey, So if you can learn how to do your own nails, I know that, women specifically like to go and, pamper themselves, which I think is great. But if that cost is getting really, really high, as we know, doing your hair is pretty costly. Even getting a haircut from a male's perspective at this point nowadays is pretty expensive. So if you can figure out ways to do your own, do other things to can lower your expenses, that ultimately will help your budget from a monthly standpoint.
I have known pretty much my whole life that I have wanted to be a teacher, and I've always loved playing school. I've always just loved kids and spending time with them. I love being a first grade teacher, and right now I couldn't imagine myself being anywhere else. I felt like I was like finally getting a grasp on what this whole teaching thing is all about. And I felt like I could share some of the things that I did in my classroom that I don't feel like everyone does in theirs. Once I kind of discovered that this could be something that I could make money from too, that's driven me even further.
So let's go into that. I mean, I think this is another awesome point, right? So she makes extra money, $5,000 from TikTok, right? And I'm sitting here on YouTube, and what I'm saying to everybody is, you can do more. You can do more. In this day and age, we got so many opportunities out here, right? And it doesn't necessarily mean you need to be on social media making money. What I'm saying is that there's other ways that you can make additional funds ultimately to help you, right? So if you got a regular job, sure, you got, Uber, Lyft. Some people do the ride share thing. Some people do the Amazon Flex. Some people do the, DoorDash, Grubhub, Uber Eats. There's so many different things. You can deliver packages. I mean, there's all of these different what they call gig work that you can do on the side to make an additional income. And it don't necessarily need to be a lot. You can do it once a week, whatever that can work in your schedule, twice a week, to help you then make a little extra money to ultimately assist in your financial situation, right? An extra $5,000 to $10,000 a year can help you tremendously, especially if you're someone that don't have extra money to invest. I would argue, hey, find an extra gig, invest that money, right? Make an extra, $200 a week, totals out to be $800 a month. Invest that $800. Ultimately, in the end, making extra money is ultimately going to benefit you in the long term. So sometimes, we complain about how much money we're not making. We want to raise at our job. We want, this next position that's going to ultimately give us more money. I would argue to find ways to make extra money outside of your regular job.
So every summer, I do always spend a lot of money on my classroom and just preparing to have a welcoming space. And then this year, I've spent some money on redoing the teacher's lounge at my school. So the school was able to pay for some things, anything that they weren't able to pay for, I ended up buying, but it was something that I cared a lot about and want a space for my coworkers to really be able to relax and unwind.
Let's end it here. And I want to, we got this picture of this couple right here, and I'm gonna just put it up because I think that's, pretty great to see a man and a woman that's out here together, moving together, locked arms, and, saving for a house, as well as put money to save for her retirement. My extra little nugget for this video is my recommendation is, if you're married, your finances, in my opinion, should be together. When you combine assets, when you combine resources, it only makes you stronger in the way if you're moving together at the same time, right? So some people, for a lot of reasons that I'm not getting into a relationship conversation, don't like to put all of their money together. They like to have their separate accounts, and they have a joint account. I think that all of the money should be together. If you want to do separate accounts to, do little things on the side for you individually, that's fine. But there needs to be a joint account for bills in the household, for playing things together, for investing together, for a lot of different things. My opinion is, and recommendation is, to put them together. I've done both. I've done separately. I've done them together. I think together is a lot better. So that's just my little nuance, my little, nugget for the additional, she talked about her and her husband are not sharing. They don't have shared accounts. They do things separately. So, I mean, but if that works for you guys, that works for you. So I wish them the best when it comes to their long-term financial success. And she looks like she has a great head on her shoulders, an amazing teacher, and a good, seem like a really, really good person. So good for them, right? So, all right, we're going to move on to another example. So we're going a little bit higher in our income. We started off at 60,000. That is the majority of the Americans. We know the average American salary in the United States is around 60 to 65,000. That was a great example. We're rising up to the $200,000 level right now, and we're going to get into $200,000. Let's break that down and see how we can look at that budget.
You never really know like what you can do until you do it for yourself. I was not a baker when I decided to make bagels, but 4 months, I didn't stop baking. Like if I was tired or if I was not feeling it, I just threw everything in the mixer. Like, what did I learn? I created this all because I bet on myself. I'm Jake Manson, 31 years old. I'm the owner of Brazen Bagels in Dearborn, Michigan.
I stopped it here for a second because I want to say this. Somebody that's listening to this and that will see this needs to take a risk. I'm not going to tell you to quit your job. I'm not going to do that, right? I'm not going to tell people to quit their job. What I'm saying is there are people that on a daily basis want to start a business, that want to, do something that they love, right? They have a gift, right? They have great skills in something, in some industry, but fear stops them from making that move. And he'll probably talk a little bit about how he quit his job to start a bagel shop, and now he brings over $200,000 a year. I think that's amazing. But this is just one of those examples of somebody that took a leap, that went for it, and I would say he's winning at the moment.
Michigan. So when you search Brazen Bagels, it'll take you to the dealership. No sign, so you might be wondering if you're at the right place, but turn to your left and we're right here. It's kind of like, welcome, you're part of the club now. First year, we did about 130,000 revenue. Second year, 200. So far in 2025, we're at 130, so we should be pacing 250. You see me rolling all day when you're selecting your bagel, and no frills, no gimmicks, brown bag. The bagel is the star.
I mean, how often do you go to get your car fixed and wind up with, the best bagel you're ever going to have?
Lox is great. The jalapeno cheddar are incredible.
Love it, man. This tastes good.
So if y'all didn't know, being an entrepreneur is difficult, right? Everyone wants to work, and they want to own their own business. They want to do, their own thing. They don't want to work for the man, as they say. They don't want to work in corporate America. They don't want to do different things. But the sacrifices they don't understand that you got to make when it comes to owning your own business is insane. This gentleman is rolling 30 dozen bagels a day. 30 dozen bagels a day. Anybody know how many bagels that is? Let's do some math, right? Ultimately, in the end, he's working his butt off every day to own his own business and be successful. So if you are someone that's looking to own your own business, to become an entrepreneur, understand that your 40 hours a week responsibility that you have at your job ain't enough. It's not enough time. You're going to be working double that owning your own business. There is no days off. There is no days off. So all of this, I don't work on weekends, or I'm going to take holidays off. Being an entrepreneur, there are no holidays. There are no holidays. If your business is needing work, and if you got employees and that employee don't show up, who you think is responsible to make sure that shop is open, to making sure that business is running? It's your responsibility as the owner of the business to operate the business on a daily basis, 365 days a year. So if you think that owning the business is going to be easier, you're going to stop working, you're going, oh, I don't have to work 40 hours anymore because I started my own business on the side, or I'm quitting my job to start my own business. Understand that you're going to be working a lot more than just 40 hours.
Being a hidden spot, it's kind of tough. So wholesale to places all around Detroit. One day I answered the phone, and while I was stating the shop's name, I realized I'm burnt out. I can't do this anymore. My wife Megan, she loves bagels. Every day, the best part of my day was waking up a couple hours before I had to make her a breakfast sandwich of some sort. She said, "You're really good at this, like you should do this." It made me frustrated, like, yeah, I know, but how am I ever going to do that? I've never baked in my life. I'm just kind of a scrappy home cook. I just knew the ingredients: water, salt, malt, barley, yeast. I just started one variable at a time, making every single mistake I could possibly make. Two weeks before my mortgage, I had $300 in my account, and I was like, if I saw 3 dozen a day, I'm kind of documenting on Instagram. If I can just reach those people and say, deliver $30, if I deliver 3 dozen, $100 a day, I'll survive. And I was talking to the owner. He's never had a bagel before. He's like, this is awesome. And I was like, why don't I just sell them? Before you open at 10 a.m., I'll be out. So he was like, all right. So once I got to go, I got really serious. And I was like, I need some equipment. This little mixture ain't enough. So the only credit card I got approved for was $3,000. I cash advanced it that day. I got an oven from Indiana, a mixer from a church camp. The oven was $1,500. The mixer was $1,500. Brand new, they're both about $7,000. We were selling like $200-$300 a day. I probably sold 10,000 bagels in 7 months. And I sold my car just to afford to keep it going. It shows in this empty space with like this dark corner, old tables and chairs pushed over there. He's like, we'd love to have you. They set up the space, electrical and plumbing. They did a lot for me. Once I had it all laid out in my mind and my graph paper, I was like, all right, I'm ordering everything. We open at 7:30. If I have to roll 30 dozen, it probably takes me from like 10 to 2 nonstop. We sell out almost every day. The last bagel sells to the last customer. I'm never late here. I'm never not getting the 12 or 30 dozen baked in time. A lot of people don't have control over their days, but they do have control about what they have for lunch, what they get to eat, who they get to eat it with. Kind of created a community. Like, you had to hear about it. Like, I got a bagel at the Quick Lane.
What I see here is perseverance. He took risk. He paid attention. He said he sold his car. He only had $300 and his mortgage was due. You see the level of, risk, right? It's risky. What's risky is leaving your job. He's working 50 hours a week, not being happy, right? Which a lot of people can attest themselves to, not being happy at what they do on a daily basis. He took a risk. He quit his job. He started his own business. Right, he had to sell his car as well as do a cash advance on a credit card that he got approved for, and it worked out. Right, understand. First things first. What I seen was the wife. Shout out to wives out here, man. Shout out to my wife. Love you, babe. Shout out to the wives out here that's pouring into their husbands, that's assisting their husbands and ultimately pushing them to do things that them by themselves might not necessarily would have done because he's worried about security and protection for his family. And she's like, yo, you have a skill that I think you can actually make money doing. You should probably look into doing this. Now, she probably not necessarily thought about him just quitting his job, but obviously she's supporting him through that process of him saying, hey, I want to quit my job and I'm thinking about starting this business, and it has worked out tremendously for them, right? So just understand that owning a business is not easy. Being an entrepreneur is very difficult. There is definitely a lot of risk involved in it. If you could work at your regular job and then start a business on the side and allow that business to then drive revenue, and you can comfortably see over a 6, 9, 12, 15, 18-month span that you're making enough money to sustain your life, then I would say leave your job. But until you get to a place, realistically speaking, that you can sustain your lifestyle with the money that you have in your business coming in, I think you should work your regular job and also then start your business on the side, right? So that was a great example of someone that was working a regular job, quit his job. Now he's making over $200,000 a year, and he's married. He seems to be happy, and I think that is awesome, right? So now we get to our last example. This lady makes $900,000, right? So we started off with 60,000. We moved to the $200,000 entrepreneur. Now we're going to the $900,000 a year as a dermatologist. And let's take a look at her financial situation. Let's get into that right now.
My dream and my passion is to become America's dermatologist that can practice everywhere.
It's not too bad. ¿Cuál es la parte que te molesta más?
My name is Dr. Anna Chacon. I'm a board certified dermatologist. I'm 39 years old. I live in Miami, Florida, and my income last year was around $900,000. My first job out of residency was at the Cleveland Clinic, Florida. And then after 3 years, I decided to become more independent and open my own practice. It was a shock for me and everyone else in the family, but it inspired me to know that I couldn't rely on one source. As comforting as it sometimes is to work for a big hospital system, a pandemic can happen at any time. The finances were not the driving factor. It was more of the ability to control my timetable, work when I wanted to, from where I wanted to. I remember my accountant telling me, but you're not going to have any patients, or you're not going to have a steady source of income, or even other physicians telling me that it was too hard and I would be better off just in a hospital with a more stable, secure job. And that actually just encouraged me more to work harder. It is pretty hard for doctors to not be tied down to a clinic or not be tied down to a hospital and work remotely from anywhere. So I said, okay, well, where can I work? How can I do this on a bigger scale? And I decided to apply for all the licenses. I work in all 50 states, DC, Guam, the US Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico.
Ronald? Hey, how's it going? Nice to meet you. Thanks for coming.
I wanted a bigger safety net. I wanted the real estate of where I was going to actually work in and practice in.
These do not look concerning. I'll take a closer look at these. Those ones, yeah.
The number of employees we've had has fluctuated over the years. We have about 3 full-time, and then we have a lot of contractors, more than 20, I think. But I'm actually the only physician at the practice. My nationwide dermatology practice in 2024 brought in $5.2 million in revenue and about 2 million in profit. I have many different sources of income. I have a practice. I see a lot of patients. I also work for other practices, hospital systems, and I have rental properties as well.
And then each time.
Oh, we know we got to go back to that. Give me 1 second. All right. So break down income streams. So first and foremost, let me just say this. Her father was a physician. She's a dermatologist. She started her own practice, 2020, after her father, stopped working. Let me just say, fathers are so important. I would argue that her father is a great reason why she's in the position that she's at right now. Her father was a physician. She followed, and maybe not in the same medical field that he was in, but ultimately in the end, that example is so key. And how we as parents, show our children how we move and the things that we do on a daily basis will ultimately impact them long term. So shout out to fathers right now, right? So she started her own practice and she took the risk. Again, she took the risk. She could have been working at a hospital. She could have took the security of working, in an institution to where she get a stable paycheck, but she didn't. She started her own practice and it has paid off tremendously. Now, the one thing that I want to touch on is she has multiple income streams. And I think that in the current climate that we live in now, what's important for us to know is that one income stream is probably not enough. It's probably not enough, right? For most people, you have this, you have some people that, make a ton of money and they can really live off that bread. But ultimately, in the end, most people need multiple streams of income. So, take that into consideration when you're looking at your situation and see, hey, how can I build my streams of income to where I can make money, by not working, right? So on her standpoint, she has, her business income, private practice. She has contract work on the side also. And then that last one, that rental income for rental properties, I think is amazing. Someone that, does rental properties, myself, me and my wife, we do rental properties. We make extra money on a rental side. And I think that passive income is amazing. And then we will continue to buy houses for our passive income long term. So take in consideration multiple streams of income, as well as, if you can get into real estate, I think that's awesome. Find another stream of income when it comes to your passive. It can't just all be active income. And if we don't know, active income is you're working for your money, right? Blood, sweat, equity, as they say. You working for it. Passive is you're not working for it. You sleep, you make money, right? You wake up, doesn't matter. You're not working for it actively. It's passively made and you're making money on the side. So for her, I think the good thing right here from an income stream standpoint that she has multiple streams of income. And as you can see, when you total up those numbers, she's making a killing out here from an income perspective.
And I have rental properties as well.
And then each time it's just going to keep getting smaller, less painful.
I think I definitely work a lot more than I did at Cleveland Clinic. The difference is I control what time I start. I control what time I finish. The other unique thing about my practice is that we are open 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. I currently earn $15,000 a month from renting both properties. I was always taught that debt is a bad thing. I didn't take any loans out in opening my practice, and probably that's why it's so simple. Now a spa rents the majority of the building. I try to immerse myself into how to invest properly. And I also try to save for another pandemic, because of what my family went through and what we all went through.
Okay, let's look at the budget.
Years ago, I also have gotten.
Let's look at the budget. All right, so Anna's spending in April of this year. We got discretionary, 4,278. What is that? Beauty treatments, home essentials, Netflix, shopping. Jesus. All right, so we spending over $4,000 on some stuff. We got housing and utilities. $3,000. This looks like it's rent, transportation costs, which is Uber, car rentals, gas, $1,600 and something dollars. Travel, she budgets for travel, charitable donations, which is a tax write-off, by the way. That is a whole nother discussion, as it is. But if you take a look at that charitable donation aspect, she's budgeting for $1,000 a month. If you total that up to $12,000 a year, she's getting a tax benefit write-off for that charitable donation. That's just another little nugget, right? As you continue to make more money, you need to lower your tax burden. And it's very important that we understand how to lower our tax burden depending on where you are when it comes to your income. If you are in the 100,000 or more range, even if you're in the 70, 80, 90,000, if you are over the lower income tax perspective and you're being taxed at 18, 20 to 24% of your income, you need to consider taxable deductions. Let's just say that. How you get those taxable deductions is something that is a deeper dive conversation we can have on another live video, but it's important that you understand what the tax code is. Because if you don't, then you're going to get, trashed by the United States government, and they're going to take a lot of your money on a every check basis, and then yearly when it comes to your taxes, right? So she budgets for charitable donations of $1,000, and then she has her food expense right there, right? So what I don't see is what she invests, like how much money she invests. We know that she has rental properties, so that's obvious. But she's making $15,000 just in her rental property only. That's not even taking into consideration her salary, her income. So what I want to see here is I want to see investments, and I want to see a big number because she's spending a lot. I want to see a much higher number from an investment standpoint than her spending, right? So sure, this is a situation where someone makes a lot of money, right? We're talking about $900,000 a year. How can you make that practical to your situation? It still should be based on a 10, 20 to 25% threshold of how you should be investing your money and how you ultimately need a budget. Regardless of how much money you make, you need a budget, and you need to be investing in this climate. You need to be investing at a minimum 10%, but you need to be in that 20 to 25% range. That's the goal in the end, is to invest at least 20. But if you're starting off and you want to just start somewhere, start with 10%.
I also have gotten just more modest as a physician. I like spending time with my family. Grandma's getting older. My parents are getting older. It's hard to do some day-to-day things on your own as a physician that works every single day. That has a practice as well. I pay about $3,000 in rent a month. I also subcontract certain family members whenever they do errands or any sort of task for me. I used to be terrible with money. I didn't know how to save. I didn't know how to take advantage of retirement accounts. Growing up in Miami, there's a lot of focus on materialism. I pretty much lived day by day and paycheck to paycheck. As a resident, you're also not paid very much. So you don't have a whole lot of opportunities to save. When I really started saving was when I read an article about the Wall Street Journal talking about Empower and different financial tools, but also really with the pandemic, realizing what had happened to my father. And I realized if I wanted that safety net, if I didn't want that happening to me, I had to build a bigger safety net and I had to have savings. Most of my growth has been in the past 5 years, actually. I definitely want to take care of my family and really just saving so that I have the ability to make decisions when I want to on my own terms.
Have a great weekend. Thank you.
It's hard to keep up this pace, especially as I get older.
Hey, Dad. How are you?
There are plans on scaling back. It is obviously one of the downsides of having so many licenses and having this be your primary business. It's hard to find a replica. I do want to say there are plans to hire more practitioners, at least in person in the office. I never want to retire, actually. I love working. You can probably tell. When a patient says, oh, you cured me and I was really struggling beforehand, that's what I live for.
So that was a good example of someone that makes a lot of money and what she does when it comes to her investments. And as you can see, it stated that she makes $900,000 a year. She has over $3 million worth of investments when it comes to real estate. She makes $15,000 just in rental income a month, right? And she is taking care of her mother and her grandmother, and it's group economics, and I think that's amazing, right? Oh, different cultures, they do group economics. Everyone lives in the same household, the family, the culture. That's amazing, right? A lot of times nowadays we like to just leave and be alone and be by ourselves, and that can put a lot of stress on one person or two people. To where group economics, to where you can live in a household with not just yourself but also your family, your grandmother, grandfather, your grandparents, grandchildren, your children, and whoever, right? That can be an additional set of income to put it all together to ultimately help the family as a whole, right? So that's awesome. What I want to take in consideration in this situation, in her situation, is that she stated that she doesn't want to work this much, where she works a lot. I mean, we're talking about traveling to different states. She does telehealth appointments with different people. She has her practice. She makes contracting income. She does a lot of work, and that can take a toll on a person over a long period of time, right? But that is the cost of being in her situation. If you want to make that $1 million a year, if you want to be a millionaire when it comes to your assets, like, you got to work. That's the requirement. And what I would say is sacrifice 7 to 10 years of your life. Sacrifice 7 to 10 years of your life to make the money, to make the sacrifices, to lower your expenses, to invest money every day, every week, every time you get paid, every month, every year. Build, secure your future. And in the end, you will live a much better life long term. We waste time out here. And this is the thing that I want to say in the title of this is why most Americans are broke. Is because we wasting time. We don't do what's required. Most Americans is lazy. Most people is lazy. Most of your family members is lazy. And in some cases, you lazy right now. You're not doing enough. I no longer am accepting complainers, victims, anybody that want to sit here, woe is me. I don't want to hear it. You have some responsibility here, and the reason why you're not in the situation that you want to be in. I'm not talking about where I want to be. I'm talking about where you want to be. Right. So we have some examples. You got a teacher that's doing a little bit extra to make an extra $5,000 that helps her in her life. You had a young man that had a regular job. He chose to leave his job, take a risk with his wife's support, and now he's making over $200,000 when he could have been in that same situation right now, living paycheck to paycheck, making a regular $60,000-$70,000 a year, and that would have been cool, but they would have been struggle paycheck to paycheck. Now he's doing something that he loves because he took the risk. He went out there. He folding up, 30 dozens of bagels every day, and out here putting in crazy work, and ultimately now makes almost $250,000 a year. And then we have a young lady that chose to open up her own practice. She could have worked at a hospital. She still would have made a lot of money, but she wouldn't be making almost $1 million a year if she would have took the safe route and got her own practice. These are 3 different examples of how people have chosen to do extra so that they can assist themselves and ultimately their lifestyle long term. So my question is, why are you not doing extra? Why are you not doing the work? Today, the first episode for today is all about accountability. We talking straight up right now. And as I sit here live on YouTube, I'm saying to myself, I can do more too. I can do more too. So before we end the day, I want us to think about how we can do more. If it's an hour or two a week, gig work. If it's the business that you've been wanting to start it now. Go and figure out how to open up that LLC. It's not hard. If you need help, send me an email. Email's in the description on my YouTube channel. You can find it, send an email, and I'll let you know. I'll show you how you can open up an LLC. It ain't difficult, right? Start the business. If you got a passion that you want to do, that you want to, do on the side, start it. Why are we waiting? Why are we procrastinating? Yes, it takes extra work. You got to do the work. That's what's required for greatness. I don't want to hear nothing else about I don't make enough money. I can't do this. I can't do that. I'm tired. I'm busy all the time. I got other responsibilities. Look, listen, it's not enough. What you're doing right now is not enough. And as we get ready and prepare for this next 15 months, end of 2025 into 2026, throughout the year 26, you got to get it done now. We got Salesforce laying off 5,000 people because AI is taking the customer service jobs. We have seen big players like Microsoft and Apple and other big companies that are laying off people in the past because artificial intelligence and technology is now taking people's jobs. We go to grocery stores, we go to ShopRites, we go to Acme's, we go to McDonald's, you go to Wawa, where now in the cash registers, there's not nearly as many cash registers. There used to be 4 or 5 cash registers at a grocery store. Now there's 1 or 2. Why? Because artificial intelligence and technology is taking your job. And in about 2 to 3 years, all of them people that you hear on the telephone is no longer going to be people. It's not going to be humans. It's going to be a computer. So if you are not paying attention to the world that we are currently living in and where we're going in the future, you are going to get left behind. So this is a call to action. Get to work, whatever that looks like for you. Whatever you want to do in the comment section, leave me a comment. Tell me what you want to do over the next 12 months to get yourself in a position to assist you in your financial journey. Whatever that extra money is. How much? What's the goal? How much money you ultimately want to make long term? How can you get to a place of financial security to where you got passive income on the side that's bringing you extra money to where it can help you then pay your bills, and ultimately you don't have to work as nearly as much. Right? For me, my passive income number is $10,000 a month. I already know what it is. 10,000. That means for the next 7 to 8 years, I will be working my behind off to make sure that my family can earn passive income through real estate of $10,000 a month. That's $120,000 a year. That's going to pay for my household expenses for my family for the rest of my life. I know the number. Do you know your number? What's the goals for you in your situation? Right. So as we end this episode, first episode of Wealth, Money, and Riches, and we take accountability and we look ourselves in the mirror and say, why am I not in a position that I need to be in? We give some examples on how other people have taken the initiative to do extra, to take risks, to start businesses, right? Things that you can possibly do in your situation. And in some of these situations, we got a young lady that's looking to invest her money with her husband, right, to ultimately buy a house and ultimately long-term live a happy life for them. I'm telling you right now, in my situation, personally, I got 7 years. I'm trying to go crazy for the next 15 months to help us continue to build and accumulate assets for the next 7 years. So that by the time I'm 40, 41, 42 years old, I can look at my 45-year-old age and say, I'm out of here. Or I can choose to work when I want to. But my point here is that financial security and financial freedom comes with a level of discipline, consistency, hard work, and sacrifice. It's time to start it. If you haven't already, if you are currently moving in a positive direction for yourself, man, I love and appreciate that. If y'all investing in the stock market, we going live on the stock market tomorrow as the Fed chair makes a decision on interest rates. We continue to rock out on Financial Blueprint. I love you guys. I appreciate y'all. Continue to subscribe, like the videos. Let's continue to get this channel moving forward. I love you guys. I appreciate y'all. I'm out. Financial Blueprint is Antoine Smalls. Peace.